Casemates, commence fire.
Today we're at Old Fort Jackson. It's $15 a person to get in, but the pass is valid for 3 days, so if you don't finish exploring one day, or if you want to come back even the next day, you can.
It's got like taken over by the National Park Service in the 2000. That's not that long.
25 years ago.
That's how old you are. Dang, those are some big green doors. I wonder if they're heavy. Dang, they are pretty heavy. Do you think these are the original doors?
Maybe.
I highly doubt it.
It looks like theirs was filled with brick there. They have all the old bullets that they would have used here in their rifles. And all the old American flags.
Women in the Civil War. That's me.
They have the history of each flag too.
The rebel flag. Oh, it's called the Stay With Faith.
You're only using the top left of the flag.
It's a rebel flag.
They have the old beds they would sleep in.
I bet they're so uncomfortable. What are these called? Like lofts or bunk beds?
I don't know.
So heavy.
These are for the cannons.
Holy crap, that's a bomb? That cannon has to have a lot of gunpowder to shoot this stuff out. I got these like one.
You didn't even pick up the regular cannonball.
That one's heavy. How many pounds do you think that is? Like 50?
No. Good, probably 15, maybe pounds.
What is this about? Events?
It's the national log of each day
Dang.
and each month.
They wrote this?
Probably. Or it was retyped up after what happened.
Dang, so what? They leave like a journal behind? Dang, that's so interesting. There's so much history right there on that.
Morse code.
SOS. SOS. That's what everyone needs to know. Is that how you do it? SOS? You don't know how that machine works, do you?
I know how to do Morse code.
Dang, I wonder what flag this is.
I don't know.
It's a tiny replica of this thing.
The barracks.
Yeah, there's a tiny one of it. These tiny windows are really cool.
Yep. Here's how they would defend with their rifles for attacks on land. And they also have a moat to protect. But they were probably most worried about attacks from water. They even have modern bathrooms here that you can use.
You know those weren't here before. You probably get these buckets. Good girl.
Looks like we're actually about to see how bathrooms were back here.
These were bathrooms? Oh,
That's what laboratories are.
Okay.
The bathrooms would sit over these, and the water from the ocean would wash out the waste.
Dang, that's so cool. They're smart. They didn't pee in buckets. That's like some hillbilly stuff. Look at this gun.
With her defending, we'll never lose the fort.
Boom!
She just broke the first rule of gun, never pointed at someone. Here's
my fort from you.
Here's our old blacksmith.
What is that thing called? Dumbbell?
I have it blocked off.
What is it?
An anvil.
An anvil? I was close enough with a dumbbell. I really was. They sound similar. More bathroom.
Looks like they were planning to build another building here, but it never came to fruition. Yeah. Had tiny walkways. No telling how long these have been here.
Oh, look at that. That's where they carry sick people, isn't it? Hurt people? Let's go check it out. Come on, girl. Let's go. Go, go, go,
Here's their surgical.
go. That's pretty heavy. Wow.
Here explains the different cannons.
I like our little dummy in here. Hello. That's so cute, Marie. Sophia, no chicken.
It was 32 pounds. I only guessed half the weight.
I said 50. Dang. A probe. Ooh, yikes.
The different medicines that they had.
Chloroform, isn't that the stuff that kills you? I mean, knocks you out.
A leech box.
What is that? Catch leeches? Like,
Yeah.
dang.
So you can study to see if they have
Dang.
different diseases.
That tooth extractor is like from a scary torture movie.
Here's an old stethoscope. That goes to your heart, and that goes to their ear so they can hear your heartbeat.
Bone and tendons. That's so sick. That's so nasty.
There's modern medicine right there.
We only have every part of the fort covered.
Sophia looked like she wanted to defend the fort too.
She's like me. What is this? You think that's right here? Oh, that would look so nice. That's not part of the attraction, guys.
Looks like cleaning gear. Here's our old figurines that they would use for strategies. A whole bunch of wooden rifles. Old exercise they would do with old exercise sticks. And even a boat above.
How deep in the water do you think the fort goes? Like 4 feet?
Not that deep.
This side looks kind of cool. But you see how it goes around it.
Mm-hmm.
They have barricades.
Barricade door. Same look as the front gate. Shelves that people have found, it looks like.
Dang, look at all those different guns.
Old wheelbarrows. It even tells you the expected distance for each bullet.
That's a big shiny one. Look at that one. It's really tiny.
Here's the cannon fire that they do daily.
Ooh, and you smell sulfur. Look, they have a cannon cleaner right here beside it.
One here too.
And they throw that into the water? They not consider littering? Ooh, it smells like sulfur bad. Where did that sign say?
Here it looks like they're gathering.
Dang, look at all those different cannon cleaners.
Recording shut up. Now we can.
Dang, look at all those different cannon cleaners. They're really long too.
Our old lighting system.
Kind of smells like paint in here.
It is nailed shut.
Look, this is what they used to carry in here. I'm assuming like their inventory or something.
Here's an old lantern. Look, you can even see a candle still in there.
Oh, that's so cool.
And they'd hold it like this.
They walk around at night with that and go to the bathroom. What are these? Really gonna whack somebody. Let's go. Let's go. Good girl, Sophia. You think she knew what was happening when she jumped up there? She was just like, dang. This is great.
All the cannons that they have set around. They even have that big old one over there.
They would take out that boat right now. They'd be like, ooh, boat sinking. What is that? Hey, don't come in my harbor.
Not them, that looks like...
Oh my gosh. I just seen a dolphin or a shark or something. I just seen a fin go
That
up.
looks like Coast Guard or something. Why would they take them out?
Look, there's a dolphin.
Oh,
See it?
yeah, dolphin.
That's crazy.
And their station guard. It's like they can stick their rifle in while watching over.
Look at this big boy over here. This is a big one. Whoa, 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 whoa.
How many people do you think it took to load this?
Like 6. 6 people.
I don't. I think it took at least 2.
2? That's not crap. That's a
One to turn it while the other ones get the bullets ready and shove it in there, and then you pack it with the cannon packer. And then they turn it and fire it.
I'm still looking for that dolphin. Guilty. Come on, Samaya.
I think 2 to 3 people can fire that cannon.
Probably. If they have 6 people on it, it's not really that efficient.
It is if the cannon is taking out a boat.
True. Take out a boat with like 15 crew members on it. What is this? Where they like held their...
Storage of cannon.
Yeah.
They decommissioned this place because they said the walls needed too much reconstruction due to modern artillery.
Wow.
They had this grass going right up to the wall. So it wasn't even just the wall defending, they had a huge pile of ground. So they had all this protection. This one's actually on wheels too.
Look at that one. It has no bottom at all. They said that one could have wheels. This one can have absolutely nothing.
These ones are smaller than the ones way over there.
Like where they brought in their own boat, but other people couldn't bring their boat.
What?
It's like a little like dock area near the water.
For their subs, for their boats, anything.
There's a little ladder up there too. Look, they got another gun hole.
If the boats ever made it past their first fire of cannons and continue to go down the canal, we now have this side of cannons along with this. And then we can send out our own boats from our own port to defend.
Wow. This place is huge. Come on, girls. I wonder where they kept all their beds, though. Because, like, we only seen that one bed, and it didn't look like there was that much space. Like, roofing. What is this supposed to be? Must be something under us. We gotta get to it.
There's stuff under us. All those rooms.
Oh, yeah, true.
Here's where you can overlook the fort.
Are we in this one? Oh, I don't think so. This one got so low roof. Wow, this is where they kept all their ammo. Wow. That's crazy cool. This is one of the two of them. They built two of them identical.
Mm-hmm.
Keep all their ammo in. There you go. Look, it says Savannah Arsenal too.
That one over there says Charleston.
Oh wow. They're stealing other ports' stuff.
If they need it.
City Cannon Fort Jackson. We're about to go outside and conduct our riverboat salute. If you'd like to watch the cannon firing, please make your way outside of the fort.
They're about to do the cannon fire. There they go, setting up.
You can go closer. I'm gonna stand here with them so they don't get nervous, okay?
Okay. We'll keep the dogs back here. Let's go get a closer look.
Even this little old 6-pound cannon can shoot 1,300 yards, so I can shoot double the distance over there to South Carolina. The big guns upstairs, like the 24 and 32-pound cannon you can see sticking up over the wall, can shoot over a mile away, about 1.25 miles. To put that into perspective, the red and white tower out there on Hudson Island is 0.8 miles away. I can still shoot well beyond that red and white tower and hit the broadside of a ship or the broadside of a barn. Oh, you think any ship that comes in front of us, you think we're going to hit it? Yeah, I could probably throw the cannonball myself and hit the ship. That is how close they have to come to us, right? That is why this fort is here. But this is a terrible place to live. It is hot in the summertime, it is cold in the wintertime. One soldier described the mosquitoes here to be as thick as clouds and as big as hummingbirds, all of which carry disease, right? Admiral Tatnall of the city of Savannah described this place to be a perfect graveyard for the men all year round. It does not matter when you're living here, but we have to have soldiers here. This is the best place to defend the city of Savannah. One, because of its closeness to the river, and because of where we sit. Right where this river splits around Hudson Island, there's actually a natural harbor that is formed. It's about 30 feet deep. Historically, the river's only about 12 to 20 feet deep. And the tide here rises and falls anywhere from 6 to 8 feet every single day. Right now, it is high tide, all the water is up in the river. But at low tide, there will be absolutely zero water down in that moat. So if you have a big sailing ship and you have no water, what's going to happen? You're not going anywhere. You're literally up the creek without a paddle, right? You gotta wait here at 5 Fathom Hole for the tide to come up before you can go into the city of Savannah 3 miles away or go out to sea 13 miles away. This river is long, it is windy, it is narrow, it can be dangerous. We're going to be using our little 6-pound cannon here to send a message to the Georgia Queen, the riverboat that is coming. Because just down the river, about where where Elba Island is at the opposite end, there would be obstacles in this river placed by the Confederate forces here during the American Civil War. There would be blockages to slow ships down, like big frames with asphalt thrown in the middle, and then also pylons of wood to slow ships down, and also underwater mines. There are mines during this war. So I do not want the ladies and gentlemen of Savannah to go down with the ship, so I'm going to use my cannon here as a signal gun. A common thing here on this river, you tell them to turn around and go back into the city of Savannah. Historically, at this fortification, there would be sentries on the walls. You can see all the white guardhouses. These sentries would be used for cover during inclement weather. Historically, the sentry would be on the wall, bayonet fixed, rifle loaded. And if you did not stop or hail through the fort, the sentry would fire 3 shots. 3 strikes and...
You're out.
You're out, right? The fort then has the authority to then blow you out of the water if you do not stop or you do not hail to this fortification. Unfortunately today we do not have any sentries on the wall, so we're going to use our gun here as a signal gun, tell them to turn around and go home. So I'm going to be loading and firing by myself. Now is the time for hearing in. These men did not wear earplugs while they were firing these cannons, so what do you think happened to them?
They went deaf.
What?
They went deaf.
Exactly, they just went stone deaf. Luckily today, we get to wear earplugs. So I get to load and fire by myself. It's probably going to take me about a minute and a half, which is slower than a full gun crew or detachment, which would be about 6 to 7 men. They could do it in probably about 30 to 40 minutes.
What about the big ones?
What about the big ones? About 5 to 7 minutes, and you need 8 men because they're so much bigger and so much heavier. Let's see how we do right now. Attention, detachment. Out. Hey. Load. Signal charge. Load. Ready! Alright, so we're going to give them a nice shot across the bow. Now it's time to cover your ear. Commence fire! Cease firing!
There's another tour that you can take to see the firing from another angle.
Alright. We will see if they get the message or not. It's up to them now. So that was only about 6 ounces of gunpowder. That was about 1/3 of a pound. Historically, to fire an actual 6-pound solid shot like this cannon would normally do, you need 1.5 pounds of gunpowder. And here we have actually one of our little shots. 6-pound. This is an original one, so you can see how heavy an actual 6-pound shot actually was. So 2 hands, ready? Oh, pretty heavy, right? Okay. So.
Can you lift it up?
Oh. About
give it back to us?
1.25 pounds. You can pass it around.
I'll pass it around.
Yeah, you can pass it around. About 1.25 pounds of gunpowder to fly that thing about 1,300 yards. That was 6 ounces that you heard. Upstairs, historically, the guns used anywhere from 8 up to 10 and even up to 15 pounds of gunpowder for each individual shot. That was 1/3 of just 1 pound. So these cannons are very, very, very loud. And these men in combat could not cover their ears. And it does look like they got the message. They are turning around and heading back into this. So, with every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? This cannonball would go flying. The cannon itself would actually recoil about 3 to 5 feet because it is pushing this cannonball all the way out. And that's why you need so many men, because you have to move these cannons every time you fire them, even with the big guns. They would recoil the entire length of that track, and we'd have to put them back in. And where there's smoke, there's fire. Because we're using black powder, we're not using modern gunpowder, it never burns evenly. So there is still sparks and embers left in that cannon right now. You take more gunpowder into there, bad things are gonna happen. So using that sponge covering the hole in the back, I have created a vacuum inside the cannon. No oxygen, no fire. No fire, your cannon is now safe. This must be done with every cannon in this fort, from our littlest one even up to the big guns upstairs. So you got to do this between every single shot. So I'm going to secure the cannon, make sure we can use it for another round, just in case they didn't get the message, but it looks like. Next program is going to begin at about 2 o'clock inside the fort. We'll talk about the fort history, who built it, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll end it with firing our little bronze cannon.
Here's another walkway. Looks like to defend. Look, they even have rifle shots through here. All the way. Is this an old fireplace? I'm not sure. Here's all the other ones. It looks like cannons might have been here set up too, because they have the cannon windows. He says he only used 6 ounces of gunpowder, and the 10-pound cannon he used calls for 1.5 pounds, so he only used a tiny bit.
Here's all their beds.
The sleeping quarters. Here's main powder magazine.
Look at this. This is an informational room.
Scant 25 miles to the north. General Robert E. Lee of Virginia was given command of Confederate forces in Georgia and South Carolina.
You can always come and watch about this fort.
Watching the fall of Fort Royal
It's about 17 minutes long, it says.
boundary defenses. Troops in
Look, they have a fireplace.
and 5 additional river batteries were constructed.
Yeah, it does look like it was a fireplace, like I guessed. There's them firing the big one.
Is there being so much excitement?
It took about 6 to 8 men to fire the big cannons up top.
They say 6.
It took about 4 to 6 men to fire the small cannon.
Observation. Lieutenant William Dixon, Republican Blues.
So my 2 men guess I guessed about the big cannons is by far wrong. A thief. I'm not sure what that means. A striker.
This was their jail cell?
Uh-huh.
Awesome. That is so cool.
The smallest of 2 cells.
Look, you're up in there. Hi.
I'm in jail. Here's their old handcuffs too. It looks like they have a bigger bed for their prisoners than they do for their actual army men. Like, it looks like they're sleeping good in there, but they don't have any padding. Here's their actual barracks.
There's a little sign right there. The guards were sleeping way better. And then, whatever this room is, it just has a room in it.
It looks like this might have had a Morse code machine in here. They would serve 2 hours on and then get 2 hours off, and then serve 2 hours on and then get 2 hours off.
Dang, that's not an awful sleeping schedule, is it?
They probably had an 8-hour sleep schedule.
Wow, what are these?
I need-
On the river.
I mean, you don't want your army men to be sleep deprived and firing cannons.
Tamachi.
Uh-huh. Now let's take a picture of this.
This is like rooms out of that. And they're all like the same exact size. Like how they know to keep it the same exact size?
They probably had barracks in here, like actual beds, and not this, because you can even see the where the wood would go down,
Yeah.
but they closed it up,
There's like 4 or 5 beds in here at a time.
and they would have to sleep on this side, this scene, sleep on this and this wall, and this walkway would be clear.
Well, they're both days too, so they didn't want people.
In each area.
Ooh, they did. They got a whole replica.
What?
They got a whole replica. I said they would. I didn't think they would.
You didn't say they would. You said you like them.
I knew it though. Like I love these tiny things. They look so cool. Wow. They need to put tiny cannon machines in here.
Here's where we started. We came in and came around. And here's where we are currently. Right here inside the fort.
They weren't playing around though, were they? They got this crap built perfectly. Exactly like their little replica. See look, these little cannonball machines should have been in there. Shouldn't they? Here's an original picture. Ooh. The
Evacuation.
They had to evacuate? March to the
This is during the Civil War, I told you that. When they were fighting against slaves. And the South Carolina people held up in here. And while the North was coming down. And we actually let them flee. If you were wondering.
CSS Georgia, the CSS Atlanta, the CSS Atlanta, and the USS Planter. Why do they have 4 different labeled only 3 ships here. They're missing a ship.
Maybe it looked the same.
Oh, the tiny man. The War of 1812. Looks like they used oysters as construction. That's crazy. Fort Oysters. Is that a submarine?
I don't know.
It's called the Ladies Gunboat. Ooh. You stand right here and do this It's a lot of money.
You can actually, if your 4 is taken over, they actually designed this to actually heavy weigh the right-handed users. Even to sword users, they have more room on the right side than they do the left side. Meaning that attackers would be at the disadvantage. They used to form castles like that too.
The fort's name was changed to Fort. I think it's starting to
Probably. Old rations that they had. Black-eyed peas.
Of peaches. Was this where they got food?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And they actually had this where the door wasn't closed. So their food was the most protected.
Here. About where the stage is would be the entrance into the building. Behind that would have been the orderly sergeant's room and his desk. And then 75 men are sleeping in that half of this building on 32 white bunk beds. Mirror that on the pavilion from the building there. Now the outline behind you, where those bricks are in the middle of the parade, that was supposed to be the officers' barracks. But the foundation is laid in 1860 and it will not be completed. The officers need to live somewhere now. They can't be living with the enlisted men, so the officers take over the mess hall right about where you are sitting. And right where we're sitting, this would be the room of Colonel Edward T. Anderson, commanding officer of this garrison and the Savannah River batteries during the American Civil War. So he'd be living here. He'd be sharing this room with probably one of the other officers of the 22nd Georgia Battalion of Artillery that I am portraying today. So, a lot of people in a very small space. What's going to happen? What's going to spread very quickly?
Disease.
Disease. When one man gets sick, disease can spread like wildfire, especially in a place like this. I already counted one soldier from West Georgia who comes to Savannah during the American Civil War. Within about 3 weeks of getting here, he catches pneumonia. He recovers, he gets better, then he is deployed out to Fort Pulaski, out there next to Tug Island, where he catches measles. And this is all within about 3 months of getting here to Savannah, and that is a very short period. Living in a place like this, disease. So we got to stay clean, we got to stay healthy. Colonel Anderson orders every man in this garrison needs to bathe. You've got to take a bath. When you are, less likely you are to get sick. So, how many times a week do you think we bathe? Zero, we gotta bathe. Don't we gotta bathe. So it is about 2 times a week at minimum. And in the summertime, 3 times is preferred. Because what is this uniform made out of? It's mostly wool. Down here in the deep south we wear jeans wool, which is wool and cotton interwoven together on this loom. That's why it has this funny little pattern like jeans do. Jeans is not a cotton, or jeans is not a material, jeans is a pattern that we wear. So this jeans wool, and this coat is actually lined up. So there is a big old cotton liner on the inside of this coat. So it is not nice and thin at all. But this is a year-round uniform. I wear this in the summertime when it's 100 degrees. I wear this in the wintertime when it's 10 degrees. So that means it's bad all year round, right? It's too hot in the summertime, it's too cold in the... So even when it's 100 degrees, Colonel Anderson orders every man is to be buttoned on when on duty. And if you're a non-commissioned officer, when there are officers inside this garrison, you'll have a tie on as well. So, all that in the middle of the summer. You're going to be sweating a lot. And in the summertime, they say you should smell the army right before you see the army. Luckily here, though, we're not marching a lot, right? We're staying inside this fort unless we're told to leave, so we can stay pretty clean. On campaign, when we're marching, fight 20, 30 miles a day sometimes, you're not thinking about taking a bath. You are thinking about getting where you're going, eating something, and going to sleep. Wake up next day at 4 in the morning, start working. We are not leaving unless we are moved to do so. So, we are the headquarters of the Savannah River Batteries. We're in charge of everything you see on the map behind me. It's just one piece of the puzzle. Now, we are a brick fortification, but what do you think everything else on the map is made of? Not wood. Well, parts of it are wood. It's dirt. It is in earthen fortifications. You've heard the phrase dirt cheap before, right? It's everywhere. Dirt is actually much better at stopping cannonballs. Brick is great because it doesn't go anywhere. This word is testament to that. But dirt will act like a sponge and will absorb the shock of the cannonball. Unfortunately, what happens if it rains? Yeah, you now have a mud fort, right? So these forts are cheap, they're economic, they're very hard to maintain though. You need a lot of it constantly digging up any sport to make it advantage. Number 2 there on the map, Battery Lee, which would have been about 100 yards away from us. They first used silt out of the bottom of the Savannah River to build the fortification. Then they brought up a gunboat to come and test it. They fired a cannon at the walls. What do you think happened? Went clean through the other side. So they had to build a train line to come out here to bring better material to build these forts. But this is all during the Civil War. This is what the fort looks like, pretty much what you see right now. But this is not what the fort always looked like. The first part, the oldest part of this fort, is actually all the white bricks at the north end of this fort. Notice where the white lines stop at the staircase. That is where the fort stopped. All of the red brick around us to the back and the side was not used. It was a simple wooden palisade wall. A wooden wall that went around the back and the outside. The ditch outside was not a wet moat, it was a dry ditch, so there shouldn't be no water in it theoretically. And there would have been wooden barracks instead of brick barracks in here. And instead of 9 guns by the Civil War, there would have only been 6 on that white U-shaped brick structure. 450,000 Savannah gray bricks produced here in the city of Savannah. 6 guns, 24-pound guns. Each cannon weighs about 7,000 pounds with its carriage. You put that out here on this small clay and dirt island, what is going to happen with the fortification? It's going to sink right into that clay and into that mud. So the chief architect of this project, Captain William McCrae, graduated at West Point. He graduated second out of his class at West Point Military Academy. That's a pretty incredible achievement. His class was 3. So, he wasn't the best in his class. He wasn't the worst in his class, but he was graduating. In the early 1800s, West Point was grand. He comes out here to build this fort. He realizes under this clay and earth our island that we're on, there's about bedrock about 30 to 40 feet underneath us. So his plan, drive wooden pylons down through the clay and the dirt to get to the bedrock, set up an outline of your fort, fill it in with more pylons, and now you have a solid building, a solid foundation to build upon. Anybody think it worked? The fort hasn't moved in 216 years. This is not a new building technique. This has been around since the Roman period. This is how they built Venice, and that's how they still build Venice to this very day. It's still the only thing whole place fort up. So it works. He sees the foundation set, and he goes to Charleston. It takes 4 years to build just that little white section of this fort, plus the wooden wall and the wooden barracks, which is going to be the fastest part. 4 years. Does that sound like a very efficient use of government time and government money? Not really, right? But anybody raise your hand if you would like to be out here on this godforsaken little island in the middle of summertime where it's 100 degrees and you have to lay bricks for 15 hours. Not really. You can't do it. Physically, you will kill the people that you send out here by exposure, disease. You're on an island in the middle of a swamp. So construction only happens in the wintertime. That is when it is safest, and that's when there's no mosquitoes flying around trying to bite you, carrying yellow fever, malaria, and anything. So that's why it takes 4 years. They build the fort, and it is finished in 1812. So they finish it just in time for what war? War of 1812. Yeah. That was an easy one. That one, we're not very good at naming stuff sometimes. The War of 1812. Luckily here, Fort Jackson does its job. There's probably going to be something called a hot shot furnace. What do you think goes into the hot shot furnace? Hot shot. Your cannonballs. You're going to take your cannonballs, you're going to make them hot, hence the name hot shot. What is the last thing you want on a wooden warship? It is fire, right? So you have a furnace about where the magazine is, put your cannonball into it, get it about 1,000 degrees. Take it out, put it into your cannon, and fire that shit. It can fly through the air, you can skip across the water, Doesn't matter. It will still be hot enough. Once it hits that ship, after about 90 seconds, that ship.
Gunpowder, is there a wadding there before the?
Yeah, so they would have spacers of wood and clay
Okay.
that are soaked in water, and it buys you about 45 seconds.
Okay.
So gunpowder, spacers, and then you're hot. But yeah, if you don't have anything in the way, that gun's gonna go off. So you better aim as fast as you can, right? Also at this time, during naval engagements, it's incredibly common to do something called double and triple shotting your guns. So you can put a solid 24-pound cannonball, then on top of that, you can put 24-pound grape shot, which is individual 1-inch cannonballs. When you fire, this breaks apart and spreads out. You can then put another one of those on top of that, so now you have 3 types of shot going down range. And at such point-blank range, we're going to get everything. This is not really meant to go for people. This is meant to break things on the ship. Break the rigging, break the masts, break the sails, slow that ship down, right? If it hits a human being, though, it is going to cause a huge morale loss on that ship. So knowing that, the British decided not to attack the city of Savannah. They simply weigh anchor, turn around. They do not attack the city. The fort did its job without having to fire a single shot during the War of 1812. The British go down to a place called Point Peter on the Georgia-Florida border. They capture it, and they capture a young American officer who says, "What are you doing? The war has been over now for 3 months. Why are you still here?" They had no idea. It's a very common thing in this war. There's going to be a lot of fighting that happens even after the war is over. Famously, New Orleans, Andrew Jackson is still going to beat the British after the war is over. USS Independence, Old Ironsides, is going to be off the coast of Portugal fighting British ships. But this fort did its job. Now that wooden wall is going to rot away sometime in the 1820s. The wooden barracks buildings inside are going to be burned down in the 1830s. And by the 1830s, also, the guns are out of the fort. So there's no cannons in the fort, there's no walls around us, and there's no barracks inside this fort. It's just a simple brick structure up there. That's it. Because the United States War Department is now working on new fortifications, what we call the third system of fortifications, from 1815 until the 1870s. These are going to be the biggest forts we ever built. We planned for 200 of them. We only built 42. That was from the tip of Maine to the tip of Florida, through the Gulf Coast, and out into California. We're building these fortifications. And we have one here in Savannah. It's about 9 miles away from us, and that is Fort Pulaski. Anybody ever been to Fort Pulaski? Is Fort Pulaski big? Yeah, it's a lot bigger than this place. This entire fort can fit inside Fort Pulaski probably 2.5 times. That's how big Pulaski is. Our walls at the front are 5 to 7 feet thick. The wall around us is back inside is only about 3 feet thick. Pulaski all the way around is about 7 to 11 feet thick of brick. We used about 450,000 bricks. They used 25 million bricks to construct Fort Pulaski. We have 9 cannons. Fort Pulaski could have 146. So it's real big. It took us 4 years. How long do you think it took to build Fort Pulaski?
4 years.
4 years? They wish they could build it in 4 years. They saved a lot of time and money.
10 years.
8, 10, 18 years to build Fort Pulaski. And this is one of 42 forts we have built. So it takes a little while to do this stuff, and they are incredibly expensive. So 1829 to 1847, that's how long it takes to build and finish Fort Pulaski. They suffer from the same problems here. It's hot, you can't work out here in the summertime. In the 1850s, Colonel Totten, the chief of the engineers, is writing up the reports. Reports on the forts that we have built, reports on the forts we want to build, and older forts that we need to fix up. In 1851, Colonel Totten asked the United States government for $45 million in 1851 for funding his fortification program. Do you think he got what he wanted? Colonel Totten said, Congress said, "Thank you, Colonel Totten, for that report." Threw it away. The war with Mexico is over at this point in time. We are not under threat of any foreign invasion, so they decided not to build any more forts, or at least slow down the construction in progress. But they do allocate $75,000 to Fort Jackson to be built up, because Pulaski is great. Pulaski protects the Savannah River. It's big, it's mean, it's got a lot of cannons. But what happens if something gets past Fort Pulaski? Now, by the 1850s, steamboats have become incredibly popular. They've been around for a while, but they're getting better. And now, by the break of the Crimean War in the 1850s, we now have ironclad boats, shipped with iron armor on the sides. So, we need to fix Fort Jackson, because if they get past Pulaski, what's better than no fort? An old fort. So, we are given $75,000. The terraplane, the gun deck is extended, so now we can have 9 cannons instead of 6. A 3-foot thick brick wall is added around the sides around us. The the dry ditch is turned into a wet moat outside. 2 brick barracks buildings are completed. A brick powder magazine is added. A drawbridge is added. And the last thing they built in 1860 is the officers' barracks foundation. It is laid in 1860, but it will not be completed. Because December 20th, 1860, someone is going to secede. South Carolina, our big neighbor is right across the river. South Carolina is going to leave the Union December 20th, 1860, well before Abraham Lincoln is inaugurated. Georgia is going to leave soon after, January 1861. We do not leave the Union here in Georgia until January 19th, 1861. On January 3rd, the governor, Joseph Brown, orders the state militia to capture all federal property within the state of Georgia. So that is going to be Fort Jackson, Fort Pulaski, arsenals that hold weapons, magazines that hold gunpowder, telegraph office, post office, etc., etc., etc. And that's held by the federal government. Remember, there could be 150 men inside this fort. When the Irish Jasper Greens show up, the Georgia militia, at the front door, January 3rd, 1860, how many United States men, United States soldiers, do you think were inside this fort? Out of 150? 50. Any guesses? Huh? 25. 25? Huh?
0.
It's between 0 and 25. It's between 0 and 10. It's between 0 and 5. It's between 0 and 2. 1. There is one man here. That is it. He is a groundskeeper. He is making sure the grass doesn't get too tall, the cannons are in operational condition, and no one's trying to break in. So when 50 guys show up with muskets and bayonets and demand him hand over the fort, what do you think he does? Here's the keys. Trash comes on Fridays. I'll see you guys later. He leaves. They allow him to leave. On the very same day, the Republican Blues are going to sail past this fort and go out to Fort Pulaski. Pulaski does not hold 150 men. It can hold 1,000 soldiers. How many United States soldiers do you think are at Fort Pulaski?
2.
2?
500.
500? Optimistic, I like it. Because Pulaski is so much bigger and he needs so much more help to maintain the grounds, there are 2 soldiers at Fort Pulaski. That is it. Why on God's green earth do we have these forts with nobody inside? Any guesses? Money. Armies are expensive. In 1862, the Army of the Potomac cost $600,000 a day to sustain. In 1862, we cannot pay for men to be in the Army. The United States Army in 1860 is only 16,000 soldiers. That is it. To put that into perspective, a small German state in the north of Germany called Mecklenburg-Strelitz is about the size of Connecticut, and it has double the United States Army in 1860. And we have 35 states that we need to take care of, or 34 states and territories we need to take care of. So in 1860, the United States Army is pretty much a police force. The theory for this time period, these forts are meant to stop foreign invaders, right? If war is declared with a foreign nation, we call it the state militia. The militia is going to man these forts along with the army. Inside a fort like this or Fort Pulaski, 90% of the staff would be the militia, 10% would be the regular army. This is how you don't have a standing army, because historically Americans don't like standing armies. We never have, especially since the British and the American Revolution. So, this fort very quickly falls into Georgia in Confederate hands, same with Fort Pulaski. 1861, nothing really happens down here in Savannah. Armies are called up, volunteers are taken, forts are manned, men are trained. That's about it. Things really kick off in 1862. Because the Federal Army has now taken Hilton Head Island over there in South Carolina, and they have their sights set on Fort Pulaski. They're going to ask Fort Pulaski, hey, you want to surrender? What do you think Fort Pulaski says? No. When Pulaski's finished, it was a behemoth. Colonel Totten himself said, you might as well go shoot into the Rocky Mountains. You're never going to get inside Fort Pulaski. But all that changes because that was 20 years ago. So now using newer technology, like the rifled artillery, we are not going to fire smoothbore cannonballs, we're going to fire big iron rifle bolts. This should be a 30-pound repaired rifle round. It's fiberglass, so it's not actually 30 pounds. But you have bolts like this that can weigh up to 200 pounds. This is going to have better accuracy. So instead of hitting the broadside of a barn at a mile away, this is a door-sized target at 2 miles away. This also goes way deeper into your target. An old smoothbore cannonball, a round cannonball like out of those big guns upstairs, would only go 3 to 5 inches. This goes 18 to 20 inches into its target every single time.
What's that fired out of?
This is fired out of one of these big rifles. So, looks very similar to some of these. Just the barrel's different.
Okay.
So, the Federal Army is going to land 20,000 soldiers at Tybee Island. This is going to be the largest naval invasion of the United States until D-Day in 1944. They're going to dismount 36 cannons on Tybee Island. They're going to set up batteries to look at 4 points. Using new rifled guns, they're going to open up a bombardment. Rifled rounds are going to punch deep into the brick. Explosive smoothbore cannonballs are going to follow after it to throw all the loose brick away, and then mortars are fired up and over the wall to explode high up and rain down shrapnel to keep the men inside the barracks in the safe places. This is repeated for 30 hours. 30 hours, non-stop, cannonballs smacking. Hole is opened up about 50 feet wide from Pulaski's 11-foot thick wall. Explosive rounds are now flying through the wall, across the parade, and an explosive round hits the magazine at Fort Pulaski. That held 40,000 pounds of gunpowder. That magazine holds 10,000, but it fails to explode. The cannonball doesn't go off. What do you think it is time to do?
Surrender.
It's time to get out of there, right? Colonel Olmsted inside the fort can see the writing on the wall. If they stay, that magazine is going to go off at some point. And so at 25 years old, Colonel Olmsted is going to surrender Fort Pulaski and all 300. The Federal Army now controls Fort Pulaski. They control the Savannah River. Nothing is coming or going from the city of Savannah. What is the purpose of having a city of trade that you cannot trade? Anything in our docks that was supposed to be sent to Europe to buy for goods, for weapons, clothing, shoes, hats, ammunition. So now this turns into a stalemate here on the Savannah River. The Confederates have a very strong position here at the Savannah River batteries. The Federal Army has a very strong position over at Fort Pulaski. First thing to do at Fort Pulaski, fix the wall. That is the very first thing they do, and move all their cannons to look at Savannah. So it's stalemate for 2 years, from 1862 until 1864. These men are in their forts, looking at each other about 9 miles away and angrily shaking their fists. And come get me Billy Yank, come get me Johnny Reb, and that's about it, right? They're just sitting here waiting for the enemy to attack, but these attacks by the river never come. That is until December 1864, when someone finishes the march to the sea. Who shows up? General Sherman. William Sherman is going to show up in December of 1864. But Sherman's not going to come by the river, he's going to come by the land side. He's going to show up on the opposite side of Savannah, where we don't have any enforcement. So, trenches are quickly dug, rice fields are flooded around the city of Savannah, and cannons are shifted to the opposite side of the city. So now the city has a ring of earthworks around it all the way to the other side, and now it's a stalemate. There are 60,000 men in Sherman's army. There's about 20,000 Confederates here. Sherman's army has been fighting since 1861. They're all volunteers. They all volunteer. The Confederates here in these garrisons have not left their forts since 1861. So they are outclassed, they are outgunned, they are outmaneuvered. What do you think is going to happen? Think the Confederates are going to win this one? By 1864, not a chance. So the Confederate commander of Savannah, William J. Hardee, can see the writing on the wall, and he decides to make the right choice. So on December 19th, General Hardee orders all Confederate soldiers of the Savannah River batteries and the city of Savannah to destroy anything of military intelligence. Burn down your barracks to deny their use to the enemy. Spike your cannons to make them useless. Take your shot and powder out of the magazines and pour them into the moat or into the river, or throw water upon it to destroy it, but do not blow it up. We do not want the enemy to know them. Pack everything, muster at Fort Jackson or in the city by 9 p.m. They're going to take boats here at Fort Jackson across the river. In the city, they'll build a pontoon bridge, march across it, burn it on the way out to the federal. Sherman wakes up December 20th, 1864, and the city is abandoned. No Confederates are here, so they simply walk into the city. And Savannah is taken relatively bloodlessly. There will be some fighting, but it's nothing like we see in places like Petersburg or Richmond. 10 soldiers of the 29th Ohio Volunteer Infantry will come out here. They will raise the 36-star flag over this fort for the first time since, and they're going to live out here. They're going to live out here for a couple of weeks, preparing to go and chase that Confederate army into South Carolina. Now, the barracks were destroyed, so where do you think all these men from the 29th Ohio are living? They're living right behind you. They are living out there on that parade, on all that green space. What do you think happens when it rains out here? It turns into mud, right? It's just earth and grass out here, and it does not drain very well, considering we're right next to a river. So these men would be living out here for a few weeks in the wintertime, 1864 to 65. They are going to cross the Savannah River in late January to go chase that army. Sherman's army is going to drive north up to Columbia, South Carolina, and head that direction. There will be Pennsylvania and Michigan soldiers in here for a little while, but the last group of men we have in this fort is the 55th Massachusetts United States Colored Troops. Or black men, led by white uniforms. Anybody ever seen the movie Glory or heard of the movie Glory before? That is the 54th. This is the 55th. So they are sister regiments. They're both formed at the same time up in Massachusetts. Because so many men wanted to join the 54th, they had to make the 55th. So both the 54th and 55th will be fighting in South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida during this war. They're going to be here for just about a month, and then by mid-February, they are also going into South Carolina. While Sherman's army goes north, the 55th is going to head towards Charleston. The 55th Massachusetts and the 21st United States Colored Troops will be the first United States soldiers to march into Charleston, South Carolina, which has been pretty much burnt to the ground. But after the 55th leaves, there will be no other soldiers inside this fort. It will stay in Army hands. They do theorize of using it again in the 1870s. They add a magazine upstairs to prepare to put more cannons upstairs. And that's the newest thing in this fort. But they realized the 100-pound Parrott rifles they wanted to use would have literally shaken the fort off of its foundation. So, not really going to do that. They add nothing else to this fort. The fort will stay in Army hands until about 1904. By 1904, it will be completely abandoned, taking care of it. And this place will return to nature for about 60 years, from 1904 until about the 1960s. One gentleman came through a couple of years ago who was a kid here in Savannah in the 1950s who used to play in this old abandoned fort here on the Savannah River. And he said that if you stood by the well in the middle of the parade, that you would not be able to see the walls around you. That is how much this place had grown up in those 60 years. It was a complete jungle. The state of Georgia will reclaim this land in the 1960s. They will try to turn it into a maritime museum. Doesn't go very well. So that is when the Coastal Heritage Society, our organization, steps in and says we will operate this site for you. And we've now been operating this museum for about 50 years, or 50 years now, 2025. We had to do a lot of work to get this place to look the way it does now. Anything you see in this fort that is wood or metal is new. It would not have lasted 60 years of being in nature. But every brick you see is an original brick to this fortification. So we're very lucky to have all the original bricks here at Fort Jackson. So this is a very brief overview of this fort's history. I could go on for probably 6 more hours. There's so much to talk about, even though not that much really happened out here. These men would be living in this fort, and that's about it. There is no big battle. There's no holes in the walls. I don't want to be here. But I know we have things to do and places to go. So are there any questions about who built the fort, why it's here, any of that stuff? Fantastic. Well, if there are no more questions, we can go over to the benches there in the middle of the parade. I'll talk briefly about our cannons, how we use them, and then we will go. I am going to be firing our little 12-pound mountain howitzer. Different types of cannons here at Fort Jackson. Different cannons for different jobs. Everything upstairs is what we call a gun. Guns are going to shoot very flat and very far away. Predominantly, we're going to be using solid iron shot out of these guns, weighing anywhere from 24, 32, and then once you get into naval guns, you go by inches. So this is a big 9-inch gun, and the cannonball is 90 pounds. That's not big. They get bigger, which is insane to think about. Guns are for hard targets. You want to put a hole in something like a ship or a wall, use any of the guns upstairs. This little cannon is for soft and squishy targets. Us. It's going to keep people from getting inside this fort. It is a howitzer, so it's not going to shoot anywhere as far. It's going to have a bit more of an arc to it. Instead of going miles away, it's only going to go about 1,000 yards, 10 football fields. Whereas this big 9-inch gun can go 2 miles away from us. We're going to fire explosives. I can use explosives from about 300 yards to about 1,000 yards away. Can't use it any closer because who else do you think it's going to hit?
You.
Coming right back at me, right? That cannonball does not care who fired it. It's going to explode in 360 degrees. Within 300 yards, we're going to switch to our close range option. For this cannon, that is canister. Canister in this is 148 iron and lead musket balls. So you've turned a very small cannon into a very big shotgun, pretty much. This is a huge force multiplier. With 6 to 7 men on this little piece, I have condensed the entire power of this garrison into one shot. If I take every man out of this garrison, put them in the line, and we all fire our muskets one time, that is as much as this one canister round. So I can use 150 men to fire 150 shots, or I can use 7 men to fire 150. I'm gonna use this, right? You can also double shot your gun. So now I have double canister, or even triple canister. So 300 musket balls, or 450 musket balls coming at you. So, the gun's upstairs, take anywhere from about 5 to 7 minutes to load and fire one single shot. You're gonna take your time, you're gonna aim, and the guns are heavy. That 9-inch gun's 10,000 pounds that we have to move all the way backwards, load and cover, and then move all the way forwards. I'm gonna take my time, because if I miss, guess what? Gotta do it all again. So, take your time, pick your shot, fire when you're ready. This little thing, because it's so much faster, with 6 to 7 men, it's not really for precision, it's about 30 to 45 seconds instead of minutes. Now, there's only one of me today, and unfortunately, the insurance companies do not like it when I ask for volunteers, so I get to do everything by myself. Now, this is a common drill that men would do, because on cannons like this, every man knows every job. No matter what you do, you know everyone else's job. Because in the heat of combat, if I lose somebody to heat stroke, dehydration, enemy fire, or they're just incapacitated, don't just stop. So we can fire this cannon in any condition, be that 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 man. This thing is small enough for me to do it by myself. Can't do that with big guns upstairs. So I am going to step inside, retrieve my ammunition. When I come back out, that will be the time for hearing and eye protection. Did they have earplugs in the 1860s? No, they did not. Guess what these men did?
Went deaf.
They went deaf. They could not cover their ears, especially in combat. Multitude of reasons. One, they must have their eyes and ears open, listening for orders from the battery commander and their gunners. 2, they are holding implements while they are doing this. No one's just standing around twiddling their thumbs while you're loading and firing a cannon. Everyone is doing something. And 3, it is cheaper for you to have ringing in your ears than for you to make a mistake and blow up one of these cannons and kill all 8 men on that attachment. So the men simply suffer the consequences of how loud these cannons can be. So, now is the time for hearing and eye protection. Like I said, about 1.5 minutes for me to load and fire, so let's see. Attention, detachment. Post, lock. Clear for action. Check equipment. Search piece. Load. Case shot. 500 yards. Load. yards, 3 degrees elevation. In battery. Off. Off. Running. Casemates, commence fire. Cease fire. Out of battery. Halt. Halt. Secure the piece. Out, face, push to the rear, Oh. Rest. So, you take your plugs out. That was only about 5 ounces of gunpowder and about 1 pound of flour. 5 ounces is about 0.3 pounds, right? It's not a lot. Historically, the guns upstairs would have fired anywhere from 8 up to 10 and up to 15 pounds of gunpowder for each individual. Firing a 24, 32, or 90 pound cannonball anywhere from 1.25 to 2 miles away from us. These are not the biggest guns even in production or on the East Coast at this point in time. That belongs to the United States Navy, and they're massive 20-inch guns they are building during the Civil War. The Rodman gun is 20 inches. The cannonball is 400 pounds. And you need 55 pounds of gunpowder to hurtle it about 2.5 miles away. It took about 30 minutes to load one single shot. I never used it in combat, but they did test it during this war. Now, the 3 guns upstairs are all originals from the early and mid-1800s. The 32-pound gun and the 9-inch gun came off of ships. The 32-pounder was on the USS Potomac, and the 9-inch gun was on the USS Brooklyn. So now imagine being in a wooden box, firing 15 pounds of gunpowder and a 90-pound cannonball without wearing ear protection. I have read accounts of soldiers and sailors that have burst their eardrums and are bleeding out of their ears while they continue to load and fire their pieces. So that is a very small taste. The 3 guns do still work as well. We can use them. I need a lot more help than just myself to do it. I would do it every single day, but we burn through our gunpowder budget pretty quick. So thank you guys for coming. My name is Corporal Eggert. Today I'm portraying a soldier in the 22nd Battalion of Georgia Artillery, Company A, the Bartow Artillery. This is just one of the many uniforms we wear here at Fort Jackson, as we've had 4 different armies across 3 different wars here on this ground, from the Revolution, the War of 1812, and both sides during the American Civil War.
They also have pieces of cannons that have broken off.